Hi, I have your file in front of me and I see what the problem is. You see in the layer palette here where you have your mesh, let me turn off the clicky copy. See where you have the upper mesh here? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off. Okay, you see this shape that you have? Let me find out where it is. Okay. You see, I've got to find your lower shape. Okay. Two things. You see way down here in the layer palette how you have this mesh right there? That mesh has to be moved up. That layer has to be moved up to one below the path you made. So let me move it up and put it right here. Okay. I'll put it in the right place in a second. Okay. This is the path that you drew for it, but there's two problems with that. Number one, do you see how there's a white fill? Okay, I'm going to take the white fill away. That's not the problem. The problem is, do you see how, let me hit the A key. Do you see how you didn't close the shape? The shape is not closed. So you can't make a mask with a shape that isn't closed. So I'm going to close it. So let me turn on the clicky copy. Okay, so I'm going to take the pen. I'm going to join in this point right here. Okay, and then I'm going to draw the rest of the shape like you did. But this shape has to be above the mesh. And it should be, they should be together. Okay, so here's what's the problem is. See how you have the path right here, and I don't know if you grouped it, but you named, this path is actually, it's going to be hard to explain, but this path is actually, you have a parent layer called right. Okay, it's the right pepper. See, it's the right pepper. So there's your right pepper, right? Correct? Okay. Let me turn off this other mask here by just turning off the visibility. Okay, so this is the simple part that I want you to remember. When you want to clip something, make sure that it is below the shape that is going to clip it, and make sure the shape is closed. So, okay, there we go. So now I've closed the shape, right? Here's the shape right there. Look at how I'm going to take this shape out of this parent layer, this extra parent layer that you made, because you might have grouped it in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is move it one above the shape that it wants to clip. So here is the path that I drew right here. I'm clicking on it. Here's the mesh that you made. Now all I have to do is shift click the circles right here. Again, the shape has to be closed. It shouldn't have any fill or stroke, and it needs to be one above there. So now that I have this actually in the right order, let's go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make, and there is your shape. Now let's do the same thing and make sure that your shape for the path here, for the stem, for the big stem, is only a no fill, no stroke shape, and it's closed. And again, you have been, it seems as if, because I'm not over your shoulder, and you're doing everything beautifully, but it seems as though when you're doing the shape, you're grouping it in its own it's called a sublayer. So I'm going to take this path out of the sublayer. It's gone. Okay, the sublayer is gone. The shape is right here. See it? Okay, now let's take the fill to nothing. Now I'm going to look at your shape. And this one is a closed shape. But the reason why you couldn't make it work is because it's not above the mesh. Now, look, here's the mesh. You had the shape below the mesh. So I'm going to turn on your mesh, lift up the shape, lift up the shape and put it one above the mesh. Again, now I can throw this, I can actually throw these two sublayers away, because they're not needed. So whenever you make a mask from now on, just draw the shape that you want to be the mask. put it above the shape. In this case, it's a mesh. So I have the shape that you drew, and I have your mesh. They are in the right order. I'm shift-clicking both circles. That shape is a no fill, no stroke, and it's closed, right? So now let's go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. And there it is. So the problem wasn't on your computer. The problem was you have to be, or Illustrator wants you to make sure that in a clip group, and I'm going to move this clip group below, I'm going to move it right there. See how I'm taking it, this whole thing, and putting it right there? So both of the clip groups are next to each other. I'm not exactly sure what all these black shapes are, but you don't need them on, obviously. So there is the explanation. Let me know that you understand what I meant, okay? So you had two issues. I know you're tired of me saying it, but you actually had this shape below that shape. I put it above before I made the mask. And with this one right here, the one that's now named Clipping Path, you didn't have it closed. Now, if I were to draw a shape, I'm going to try to explain this. If I were to draw a shape and I were to group that shape and then it would be in a subfolder, Illustrator doesn't understand when something is in a subfolder, okay? So I'm gonna, I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna revert to the way it was when it first came here, okay? Because I wanna show you something. So now it's gonna revert. And I'm just going to ignore that. Okay, so now let me go do it again. But I want you to see something, okay? And I'm turning on everything. Okay, so this is the way it came to me. I really want you to understand this process. Here's your mesh. There's the path you were going to use. Again, the mesh, the path. What's wrong with this picture is this needs to be above the shape. It's that simple. Now, that was actually that shape, so I used the wrong one, okay? So I'm going to go to the stem mask, this one, and I'm going to put it one above that shape. Now, Illustrator will still allow me, even if an object has a fill, now that I have them in the right order. You see what I'm saying? And this is a closed shape. I don't necessarily have to click on the circle and take the fill away. In fact, I won't this time, because if I shift-click both of these things, the mesh being below the path, I can go hit Command or Control 7 and it'll still work. You see how I did that? Now, I realize that I'm over-explaining myself, but it was very important for me to have you not make a subgroup. And when you named these, you actually named the layer that the path belonged to. In this case, it's called a sublayer. All right, so both of these, now that I've emptied them, can get thrown away. And that's important to know. Now, here is your path for the other shape. So let me turn off this one. Now let's click on it again. Do you see how you didn't close the shape right there? Well, I obviously did close the shape. Now, if I want to turn on the clicky copy, again, I'm going to take the pen, and I realize I'm probably re-explaining this, but I think it's important for you to know the simple process so that you can do it from now on. Always make sure that the path is closed, okay? Always make sure the path is above the mesh. Now look where the mesh is down here. It's way down here. So let's move this one up higher, okay? And I'm gonna put it way up here, one below the path. It's a closed shape. I shift click on both circles over here and I hit Command or Control 7 and there's your mask. So now I turn off this and there's your mask for this. I turn on the clip group, there is that. Okay, now obviously I have to move this clip group below that clip group. Not in, below. Okay, that is an indication it's going to go in. This is an indication it's going to go below. And there you go. So I hope that helped. Let me know.